This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Upgrade your business with Shopify, home of the #1 checkout on the planet. Shop Pay boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning fewer carts going abandoned and more sales going cha-ching. So if you're into growing your business, get a commerce platform that's ready to sell wherever your customers are. Visit shopify.com to upgrade your selling today.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Kelly Green Hour as we are here to preview the NFC Championship game between your Philadelphia Eagles and the surprising Washington Commanders. I'm your host, LJ Harrell, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, Connor Donald. Connor, what's up, bud?
I cannot believe, first of all, that we are here. I mean, I guess we should believe it, but, you never know until you're there. But I can't believe we're here knocking on, the door of this Super Bowl again. And that the football season's almost over. We talk about it every episode, like how crazy we waited so long for this and it just went by in a flash. But agreed on the Commanders front. I still thought they were a couple pieces away. I still do, but that doesn't mean they can't make that Cinderella run. I'm not going to disrespect that those runs can happen. So,
Excuse me. Yeah. This is going to be their fourth, consecutive road game. This is the Eagles' 8th NFC Championship game since the turn of the century, which is the most in the NFC. They're third in the last 7 years. Excuse me. They are 3-4. Yeah, 3-4 in the NFC Championship game so far. Losing in 102-03, winning in 04, losing in 08, winning in 17, and winning in 22. But before we jump in any further, as always, follow us on Twitter at Kelly Green Hour. Follow Connor on Twitter at Connor10. Follow me on Twitter at LJHarrell54. And follow the Eagles Pinpool Network on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, and wherever you get your podcasts at Eagles Pinpool Network. And if you're tuning in live, let us know your thoughts on the game, your prediction, some keys, players to watch, anything that is of interest that you want us to discuss, because it's going to be a long 2 days, a day and a half, whatever it is, until this game gets going. We are about 44 hours away. Excuse me. And man, I for one cannot wait. The Eagles and Commanders split the season series. The Eagles won in Philly in week 11 on Thursday Night Football, 26-18. And the Commanders won in week 16 in Landover, Maryland, 36-33. And as we remember, Jalen Hurts only played about 12 plays in that game, and the Eagles are a Devontae Smith catch on third down away from – is it third down? I think it was third down. It was third or fourth down away from ending that game, because if Devontae catches a ball that he catches 99 out of 100 times, the Eagles sweep the Commanders. I expect this game on Sunday to be the typical NFC East type matchup. It's going to be a battle. I think the spread right now is 6. It wouldn't shock me if it comes within 3. Like, it's going to be another game that takes about 5 years off of our lives, which, at this rate, I might die by 6 o'clock Sunday. What's up, Quentin? Thank you for joining us. And we're not going to take any McKee question. No, I'm kidding. I had to throw that out there. I thought that was funny. But yeah, Connor, what are your initial thoughts going into this game? Jayden Daniels is having probably the best rookie quarterback we've ever seen, having an outstanding season, definitely going to win the Offensive Rookie of the Year. Has the Commanders in a position they haven't been in 30 years pretty much. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I agree with you first and foremost. The fact that the spread is so, and has been I think it opened at 4. And the fact that it has never been within a field goal is crazy. I don't know what Vegas knows that we don't know, or ESPN Bet, or whoever's making the line that you're reading. But it's crazy to think that this line pretty much opened at 4 and has only gone up since, because it just makes no sense to me that both teams are going to be fairly healthy. I know Deron Payne's banged up, Louvu's banged up, Wagner's banged up on our side. We got Kim. Cosme's out. That's a huge loss. But then you look, Cam Jurgens banged up, Goddard's banged up, AJ Brown's been playing through something and looked like a shell of himself. There's people like Jalen Hurts. He's going to wear the brace. There's people like Chase Daniel who just hate on Hurts all the time, who thought that video looked like he was almost immobile in that one video that came out. But then you have John Clark's report today that the team says he looks more mobile than he looked even in past weeks in practice. Of course, take practice with a grain of salt. But I mean, both teams are banged up. So injuries be damned, throw them out the window. Cosme, I mean, I think I saw a stat that Cosme in the game, the pressure rate for the Lions was 17%. And as soon as Cosme went out, it was like 45%. And they don't have a Jalen Carter, Milton Williams, and Jordan Davis pushing the pocket. So I'll be interested to see how huge of an impact Cosme plays. But it showed against the Detroit Lions defense that was completely battered that Cosme plays a massive role in that offensive line. I mean, we've seen offensive linemen come in ice cold off the bench and do really bad and then come back the upcoming weeks and do better. Maybe it was just, a guy coming in cold that, wasn't prepared for such a big circumstance. But I mean, like you said, this game, the spread is not doing it justice. This is going to be a really good game. This is going to be a hard-fought game. I mean, even against the New York Giants throughout the season, those were well, not really, not week 8. Well, not week 18. Well, it kind of was, but it wasn't. But even those matchups against a team that's as bad as the New York Giants divisionally can get your heart going and makes a game that much more difficult to win. So, I mean, my initial thoughts is this is not a gimme. The Washington Commanders have won 7 in a row. Who cares if it's, half of them have come on a fourth quarter game-winning drive with 2 minutes or less to go? That doesn't matter. The fact is they're winning in situations that 31 other teams are not able to close out at the rate that the Commanders have this season. So if you give them a chance to be within one possession with less than, 5 minutes left in the game, that could spell your doom. It has spelt the doom of many this season. So, I mean, long rambling way to go about it, but this is going to be a really good game. This is really good. This is going to be a really hard game. And I know that people are kind of disrespecting because there's there's a lot of experts going the Commanders side. America has almost gone over the 50% threshold towards the Commanders side. I'm not going to be one of those guys that sits here and says, oh, that's crazy. Why would you even pick that way? Because it's not necessarily crazy. We split a season series with them. Granted, yes, we lost Jalen Hurts. Granted, in their direction, it was on a short week and Jayden Daniels was banged up. So this is going to be Jalen Hurts is banged up still and he's going to be wearing a brace, but this is going to be about as even as it's going to get. You have to get the best and the most out of your team in this matchup because this make or break, baby. This is a Super Bowl trip on the line.
Yeah, and if you look at both rosters, looking 1 through 53, the Eagles are the better team. But looking at the Commanders, right now, Jayden Daniels is playing better than Jalen Hurts. And the quarterback, having a quarterback matters in the NFL. Let's be honest. It can change everything, and it's changed everything for the Washington Commanders. A desolate franchise when Daniel Snyder was there and Josh Harris and his group buys the team, and they're in the NFC Championship game the first year. And like you said at the beginning, this is supposed to be a rebuilding year for them. They signed a lot of 1-year contracts, and they've come all together under Dan Quinn. It's going to be an interesting matchup. Coming into Philly though is different. And Jayden Daniels is a guy. He played at Arizona State. He played at LSU. I think he's from California, if I'm not mistaken. He hasn't played in the cold. They played in Tampa the first playoff game. They played in Detroit in a dome last week. The week before that, they were in Dallas. I don't think it got that cold in Washington. In their last couple of home games, it's going to be, and granted, it's going to be like 40 degrees, which is much needed around here because the weather has been ridiculous, like single digits. It's been crazy cold, but I'm expecting a great game. I'm expecting a back and forth affair. I think it's gonna on the defensive side of the ball for the Eagles, and kind of prelude to who, unless you pick them, who my player to watch. Jalen Carter's gonna have to win this game like he did last week for the Eagles, and going up against Trent Scott, who's replacing Sam Cosmi. Like, they're going to double team him because that's what teams do. They double team Jalen Carter, but he's going to have to win that matchup, and others are going to have to win around him. Nolan Smith's going to have to win. And the Eagles, Vic Fangio and this Eagles defense got to see a healthy Jayden Daniels, a couple weeks ago? About 5 weeks ago. So, and they know what he can do with his legs. So hopefully they have a game plan where they're able to keep him contained. Yes, he can throw the football, but I think, in a situation like this, in an environment like Lincoln Financial Field, a young quarterback like him might want to rely on his legs instead of his arm. So hopefully the Eagles are able to contain him and not let him break out.
Yeah, I agree with you on that point. Like, you don't want to leave it to chance. You don't want to test letting this guy get out of the pocket. You got to keep him in there. You got to make him throw the ball. We know no matter how good somebody is, you make more mistakes throwing the ball than you make mistakes running the ball. We see it with Jalen Hurts. We see it with Lamar Jackson. We see it a lot with Jayden Daniels too, because all of these teams, no matter what you say, they all rank top 5 in rushing attempts in the league. None of them are, these notoriously high-end passing offenses that throw the football a lot and aren't prone to making mistakes. And like you said, that 5 weeks ago, that was the last time that we saw, the Philadelphia Eagles defense not look that good. That kind of looked like a shell of themselves that we had seen throughout, the prior 9 weeks. And then over the last few weeks, of course, I guess discount the Cowboys and Giants game, but Packers and Rams game, like they were looking a lot better. They're the reason that we were able to win games in spite of Jalen Hurts coming out of the concussion protocol, Jalen Hurts being banged up, Jalen Hurts and Kellen Moore not seeming to be on the same page as far as this offense goes. They've been winning almost in spite of the offense, this defense, over the last 2 weeks, and willing this offense to the conference championship. And at some point, you absolutely need this offense to step up in a big way. But that doesn't discount that, like you said, you need Jalen Carter to continue to dominate. And does not having Sam Cosmi give a major benefit? Probably, hopefully, because we need that benefit to go our way, especially playing up against a quarterback like Jayden Daniels, who, like you said, is having a historically, it's being called the best rookie quarterback season ever. And I don't know if you can argue, because even in the ones that are statistically comparable, the way Jayden Daniels has willed this team to victories at times with those game-winning drives, with those fourth quarter comebacks, I think it's 8 on the year. That's crazy. You do not that. Just goes to show you that just as much as they are a playoff team in the conference championship, they could have been 4 or 5 losses that were wins. And they could be in a completely different situation altogether, not in the playoffs, never even sniffing the playoffs, but they are. And I think that's due in large part to Jayden Daniels. So the Eagles defense has to win. The Eagles defensive line has to take advantage of an offensive line that's been good, but I think they've been a benefactor of the fact that they do get to rush the ball a lot as an offense, and that takes some of the pressure off of the offensive line, because as soon that a 17% pressure rate, even with Sam Cosmi, is a pretty significant pressure rate. Like, you're talking 1 in 5 dropbacks, Jayden Daniels was facing some sort of pressure. That going up to 42%, I don't expect it to be that high this week, but I do expect that you can definitely get it to a point where you're 1 in 5 or 1 in 4 snaps getting a pressure. And that just goes to show that this offensive line can give up pressures, does give up pressures. And this defensive line, like you said, if you pick Jalen Carter, I'm sure I'm going to pick a different defensive lineman, because it's going to be vital. Although we did see in the last matchup that the DBs, this secondary, looked really bad. We gave up touchdowns to Jamison Crowder. We gave up touchdowns to Olamide Zaccheaus. We gave up touchdowns almost to the whole
it also didn't help that
receiving core.
CJ GJ got thrown out of that game, and I don't anticipate him getting thrown out Because if you remember on that 4th and 11, Tristan McCollum tackled his own guy. I think as I think Zach Bond was about to at least make an attempt to stop him short, and McCollum came up and hit Bond out the way, and Jayden Daniels was able to go for 30 yards. So I think CJGJ has learned how to control his tempers now over the last 5 weeks, and I don't think he'll allow that to bother him. The one thing I do think, CJGJ, Jalen Carter, some of these guys on the defensive side, they do need to be aware, because I think Washington's going to do their best to try to get under their skin. That's what they did in that game 5 weeks ago. They like to talk. I mean, the defensive coordinator was already talking about, like, if the Eagles are going to run Jalen, we're going to hit him like a running back. And we know what Frankie Louvu is, what he did to Jared Goff last week, what he did to Hurts 5 weeks ago. So we know that they're going to try to come after and maybe a late hit here and there, or try to get away with a late hit, or, if Jalen's going to slide a little late, Jalen and Jared Goff and Lamar Jackson and quarterbacks like that aren't getting the Patrick Mahomes treatment. So it's binge drinking Robitussin. Yeah, I don't like liquid medicine.
San Diego 2019. All right, LG, it's time to start binge drinking Robitussin at this point. If you've been with us through, man, I think this has been back since like Dallas Cowboy week 17. LJ has been coughing and struck. I mean, he's a lot better than week 17, but I agree with San Diego 2019.
Yeah, I don't like liquid medicine, unfortunately, though. So I've been taking a bunch of like pill medicines, and hopefully, I don't know. Obviously, it's not helping, but I got to figure something out. Thank you for caring, though. I appreciate that, San Diego 2019. Now I'm going to think about it every time I talk. But yeah, so like the Eagles just have to be smart. And the one thing about that game 5 weeks ago, it took Jalen getting hurt, Devontae dropping the ball, CJGJ getting kicked out or getting thrown out the game. But the Eagles defense also forced 5 turnovers and weren't able to capitalize. I think they only got, on the last four turnovers, only got 6 points, if I'm not mistaken, with Kenny Pickett. So that has got to change. And I would think that if the Eagles defense is able to get those turnovers again, which I'm not anticipating that, then Jalen is going to be able to lead the offense. Jalen and Saquon are going to be able to lead the offense to more points. Daniels threw 9 interceptions this year. The Eagles had 3 of those interceptions. So they've had success. But like I said, while Fangio has had a chance to watch Daniels has had a chance. Daniels and Cliff Kingsbury has had a chance to face this Eagles defense twice. So that could be a difference. I mean, that's going to be an intriguing key to this game is who makes the better adjustments, who's going to win this chess match, because that's what it's going to come down to.
Yeah, I agree with you on the point that you made about the players are going to have to keep their cool, definitely. And I think it has to be drilled. And I'm sure Jalen Hurts knows and understands as well, given the state of his knee and the state of his health in general right now. Get down. At this point, every yard counts, but to the same point, if you're the quarterback, every yard counts within reason. If it means a yard or two, or it means you live to play another down, live to play another down. You're in that point in time. If you're talking a 4th down, less than 2 minutes to go, you're down a score, and you need that absolute couple of yards, okay, whole different scenario. But the first half of the game, maybe even through to the third quarter, don't risk it. Live to play another down and continue to live to play, especially another week, because you want to be able to be there next week. It's not worth it for these guys. If they got to take the step out a yard early, if they got a guy like Jalen Hurts has to take the slide early to avoid this, it seems like their commanders are there to that point in the season where they're willing to test the temperament of some of these Eagles players. And we've seen some of them go awry at times, questionably, but the referees made calls, but they have let their tempers get the better of them. And they just need to know that, it's time to walk away when it's time to walk away, stand up for your guy, but do it reasonably and know that, this, I think I saw something today that the refereeing crew that we got has one of the highest penalty calling clips in the league. So you do not want to, I think it's 13 penalties a game. They average for 110-ish yards worth of penalty yardage. So you do not want to test this crew, because if they feel they need to get control, they're going to go and they're going to get control. But that on the flip side goes against the Washington Commanders, because if they try and do this and they've kind of talked the talk throughout the week, equally so, this referee team could be the one that protects us as well, because they're not going to put up with a Frankie Luru trying to lay a hit down on Jalen Hurts when he's already a foot out of bounds or something. They're not going to let that type of stuff go. So hopefully that kind of plays to our advantage, that the referees, that the refereeing crew does call a lot of penalties and doesn't put up with BS. And fun fact, the Eagles are 6-1 since like 20 in the last 8 years or 7 years when this head referee is the referee. So that's may also play positively in the Eagles' favor. But you don't want to lean into the refs or allow the refs to be the reason you win or lose a game. You want to do that on your own accord. Another key thing that I think is going to be vitally important, a key to the game, especially for this defense, and we saw it in the last matchup where they had a high 3rd down and 4th down conversion percentage. And this Washington Commanders offense, just like their big game-winning comebacks, they have a high percentage of converting on 3rd downs and 4th downs. Make it be 3rd and long or 3rd and middle where they can't run the ball, and don't allow it to get to a point where it's a 4th and short where they have that opportunity. They have to try and shut it down on 1st and 2nd down and force them to throw that ball on 3rd and longs, and don't allow those scenarios on 3rd and 4th down, because they are one of the best teams when being backed up against the wall and being forced to convert on that. And I think it just speaks to the mentality that they've been playing with all year. They know they're playing with house money. I mean, the fans maybe not, but I think this team knows they're playing with house money, and they're going to take every advantage that they can. If they got to put it all on the line, they know they're in a spot they thought they'd be in probably 2 years down the road. And now they're ahead of the call on that. So it'll be interesting to see, but the Eagles definitely have to try and shut things down early and often, and don't let it get to 3rd or 4th and manageable situations, because the odds are, as good as this defense is, we watched it in the last game. The odds are they're going to convert. They're going to make something happen in those 3rd and 4th and manageable situations where they're forced to go for it.
Yeah, and that's, like you mentioned, that's what Dan Quinn decides to do. They've gone for it the most and have converted the most in the NFL this year on 4th down. The one thing you said earlier was, the defense is going to have to carry the offense, and or the offense is going to have to make, a couple plays. I think you may have primarily been talking about the passing game, because Saquon has just been dominant, and we know Washington's not that great of a rushing defense. Now they do have Jonathan Allen back, right? He was the one that was hurt, I think. And he can make a big difference.
Deron Payne did not practice today. He's questionable. I think they just rested him, and they're going to play Deron Payne, but he didn't practice all week, which is usually the sign of.
Also, Detroit rushed for over 200 yards and just stopped running the ball, which I'll never get. The Eagles won't stop running the ball because that's what they do. And if Saquon's able to find lanes, and hopefully he doesn't have what happened in the second half in the game in Washington when he had 16 carries for like 27 yards. And that's where having a quarterback like Jalen, who can at least show he is willing to move around and keep the ball on runs to try to keep the defense honest. Now, I'm not saying call a bunch of designed runs for him, but if you're going to run an RPO, maybe he keeps it once or twice. And then that'll help Saquon and keep things open. So it's going to be a chess match. It's going to be who can outsmart who. Can Kellen Moore outsmart Witt? And can, Vic Fangio outsmart Cliff Kingsbury? And that's what it's going to come down to. And I'm intrigued to see how that works out.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely hit it. Like, this has been a bad Russian defense through the whole season. And obviously when Jalen went out in the last game, that changes everything, because you don't really have to necessarily at that point respect the quarterback and any mobility, especially when Kenny Pickett's the one going in there. He's mobile, within reason. He's able to do a little bit, but he is not Jalen Hurts. And you saw that because in the second half of that second meeting where Jalen Hurts went down, Saquon Barkley was non-existent in the second half. Even a banged up Jalen Hurts still forces you to respect his ability, because we've seen banged up Jalen Hurts still run the ball. We've seen banged up Jalen Hurts do what he has to do to get the first downs and to make plays. So having that element of Jalen Hurts being there is already something that a defense has to respect. And the fact that they're talking about him the way that they're talking about him, as if, if he's going to run like a quarterback, we're going to hit him like a quarterback. Running back, sorry. Then of course, that they are respecting it and they are taking him into full consideration in this game plan. And in the first meeting, they were not able to necessarily stop this Eagles rush at all. Their offense ended up with where was that first matchup? Well, they only ended up with 93 rushing yards in that first matchup, so they still were able to. But I mean, sorry, it's 228. Sorry, I was looking at
Saquon had some big runs in the fourth quarter.
I was looking at our rushing yards allowed. So yeah, we were at 228 rushing yards the first meeting, and even banged up, like even up until that point, they allowed 211 rushing yards in that second meeting. So it's not like they stopped us. It's just the second half, it became extremely difficult because there was no Jalen Hurts. And then you look at games since, they have improved. 126 allowed to the Falcons, 150 allowed to the Cowboys, which 150 to the Cowboys is pretty embarrassing in its own, but they probably had a lot of the backups out there. 101 to the Tampa Bay Bucks, but then 201 to the Lions. Like you said, they gave up 201, and Daron Payne is definitely not 100%. If he didn't practice all week, you're preserving him for the game, but he's still banged up and he's still not going to be 100%. So you know that they're fully capable of giving up the yardage. And you know that the Eagles are more than willing to rewrite in history, and the fact that, you can't win the Super Bowl rushing the ball. They're going to try their damnedest to rewrite history and show you, yes, you can do that. Yes, you can win with that 90s mantra of a good defense and a rushing attack.
I also think that Joe Witt saying what he said may put it in the back of the minds of the referee crew at Ockley and them, because now they'll be prepared for it. And maybe that will get us a call or two.
It was definitely, in my opinion, it was ill-advised. You don't make those type of comments, because then ref and crews 9 times out of 10 are going to go looking for you. And the first, even if it's a controversial one, the first one that they think is questionable enough, they're going to call it just to say, check yourself. We're not letting that go. So you don't want, it was, in my opinion, it was an ill-advised comment. And you can kind of see in the way Vic Fangio speaks and the way that Witt speaks that, being a veteran of the game and stuff, what to say, when to say it. Behind closed doors, you say, okay, go out there and hit Jalen Hurts like a running back. In front of the media, you don't go out and say, hit Jalen Hurts like a running back. It just doesn't make sense.
Because Vic Fangio is telling his defense the same thing about Jayden Daniels.
Absolutely.
He just hasn't said it. So what are your thoughts on, now they're going to play, but Dallas Goedert was banged up this week. He practiced today. Cam Jurgens was banged up this week. He practiced today. Keeping Dickerson at guard and having Jurgens at center is huge, because Dickerson would have been the back. Dickerson probably would have played center and Steen would have played left guard. And I think it's huge to be able to keep the continuity. What were your thoughts of that this week, with the potential? Now, obviously they're going to play, but the potential of having to make those changes.
Well, first of all, on the Dallas Goedert front, the guy's been banged up all year. I think he's missed,
his whole career.
His whole career. He's, over the last 3 years, he's missed close to 25% of games. And games that he's been on the injury report, must be nearing 50% in the last 3 years. It's crazy. So him being banged up is not a surprise. The fact, he's willing through it, he's fighting through it. We definitely need him. We saw what happens when Grant Calcaterra is marched out there as a blocker. It's not pretty. And I think it kind of speaks volumes that this past week Howie Roseman went out and added 2 young Cam Latu and Nick Muse, 2 tight ends that are likely going to be on futures contracts and getting a shot. I think that speaks volumes to the fact that he knows that they need to do something at tight end. And I'm a strong proponent of, this was around the time that you drafted Dallas Goedert to replace Zach Ertz. I'm all for maybe, this being the time to draft a tight end this year to prepare for life after Dallas Goedert, because at this point, Dallas Goedert's missing 25 to 30% of games a year. So you have to prepare for life after him, especially after seeing the way that they look with backups, Grant Calcaterra. Grant Calcaterra, tons of respect. He's a great receiver. He is a terrible blocker, horrible blocker.
And it's a shame too, because Dallas Goedert has been vital in a lot of games.
Absolutely.
And in the playoffs, he's been a really good player for the Eagles in the playoffs over his career.
Exactly. It's not a disrespectful jab at him. It's just, maybe it's time to prepare for life after him, because you can't sustain an offense when your tight end's going to miss a third of your games every single season. And you just don't know when those third of games is going to be. And then Cam Jurgens, I mean, that was kind of a surprise, but at the same point, like he's fighting through. People are all banged up. At least half of more than that, 75% of everyone's all banged up. So, I mean, but the continuity is definitely important, especially going up against Daron Payne, no matter how banged up he is. Jonathan Allen, Dante Fowler's been having a good season. Cleveland Farrell's been, I mean, he's the fourth most important guy that you have to worry about on that defensive line. So obviously he's doing what he's got to do in the position he's in. So, I mean, it's important to have that continuity and to have all those guys available and to be prepared to stop that front four, because they are a very formidable front four, no matter what shape they are in.
San Diego says losing CJ was big in that game. They scored 22 in the fourth, mostly off missed assignments and missed tackles. So yeah, that was huge. And again, I don't anticipate CJ getting into a situation like that where he's going to get kicked out, and he'll be there for the entire game. He's that emotional leader on that defense. And we missed it last year, and it was such a good, really key of Howie Roseman to bring him back. Ewing 609, thanks for joining us. What's up? And then San Diego 2019 says, when the defensive coordinator makes that kind of comment, it kind of makes me think that he forgot that he is a running back as well. Tit for tat is human nature. Yep, as I mentioned a couple minutes ago. Fangio's telling that to his defense, and, it's a shame that we're not going to have Nakobe Dean, because I think Nakobe Dean could have been a guy that could potentially spy him. I don't know who that would be. Maybe Oren Burks or Zach Bond. I don't know if I would waste Zach Bond as a spy, but it'll be interesting. I wouldn't waste Nolan Smith either. I hate it when they dropped Nolan Smith back in coverage last week. He's your best pass rusher. Let him get after the quarterback. So hopefully they do let him, do what his job is and get after the quarterback more often than not.
Yeah, like I said earlier in the episode, live to fight another play, live to fight another week. Don't allow the opportunity to put yourself out. I think Jalen Hurts is experienced enough and should be well aware of what's been said, his capabilities, and just that he just needs to be there and be healthy. And even if he's chipping away, getting 2 yards here, 5 yards here, they don't have to be massive runs like the whatever it was, 60-yarder last week. It doesn't have to be those massive runs that you get to make them respect you as a runner, but make sure to live to play another play. And Jayden Daniels in his youth, although technically he's kind of a veteran, he's like 20, he's almost 25 years old. Like he's one of the oldest he's definitely got to be the oldest rookie quarterback to ever play. But that's because
Carson was close to that.
That's true. He went he's been like Jayden Daniels did 6 years in college. It was crazy. Like there's guys who've been in the league 4 or 5 years now that played against Jayden Daniels 4 or 5 years ago. So it's just funny to think about, but hopefully, that awareness and that the fact that Jalen Hurts has been here and in these circumstances and knows that he needs to be the guy this week and next week, or in 2 weeks if we make it to the Super Bowl, that's important. And I hope that mantra is being drilled into him by Nick Sirianni and by Kellen Moore, that they have to respect your legs as long as you're on the field, but don't make it that they respect your legs too much to the point that one of those hits gets laid on you when you're done. So definitely important. I
think another big matchup is going to be Marshawn Lattimore and A.J. Brown. We saw that. I mean, Marshawn Lattimore is really good, but that last game he had a couple of pass interference penalties. AJ
could have been a couple more.
Yeah, AJ had. I think he had a touchdown. And we know AJ has that knee thing, but that's going to be a big battle It always is when those two are going up against each other. And Marshawn Lattimore doesn't shy away from it. So I'm being intrigued by that, especially if the Eagles decide to pass the ball a little bit this week.
Yeah, Nooms for 9. CJ may have to worry about De'Ami Brown getting loose and not being able to crash the line of scrimmage as much. I mean, I feel like Vic Fangio is going to have a plan. He's going to have an idea because he knows that they can take the top off of defense. We saw I know it was some blown coverage and some blown work in the last matchup, but we saw really bad coverage on the Zacchaeus touchdown. The Jamison Crowder touchdown wasn't pretty. And then, of course, you still have to respect Terry McLaurin. I mean, we talked about it a little earlier in the episode that the DBs are going to have to be better. And I know you brought up the CJGJ point, but losing somebody, you have to be prepared in any circumstance that if somebody goes down, you're ready to step up and be the next man up in that situation. And it definitely didn't look like they were prepared in that situation, the DBs. And Kenyon Mitchell's banged up. We didn't really talk about Kenyon Mitchell, but he was, he practiced all week, but I mean, he's probably playing through a pretty significant shoulder injury I was going
to bring up Mitchell's matchup with Terry McLaurin. That's going to be another battle. And then Cooper DeJean against whoever he's going to cover, whether it be Zacchaeus or Brown. And then Slay. It's going to be key for the secondary because while Washington's going to want to try to run the ball, they like to get. Terry McLaurin took a screen 58 yards. Tackle, try. Don't go for the big hits. Just make tackles. Keep these the short passing game, the short yardage, like you said. Try to keep them in third and longs and not third and shorts, to where if they don't get it, it's going to be fourth and short, and they're going to automatically go for it.
Yeah, definitely. And you still have to respect Austin Eckler, Zach Ertz. There's so many guys, so many weapons that Jayden Daniels can look to, and he's got security blankets. And unlike Jalen Hurts in some situations, knows how to use them. So Jalen Hurts has to know who his safety blanket is, who his blitz beater is if they're blitzing. He's just got to be ready for everything. This is one of those games where we need to see Jalen Hurts has to prove the haters wrong. If he's in the passing game, he's got to make those plays. If it ends up being on the wide receivers, like we saw with A.J. Brown a couple times in recent memory, then it's on the wide receivers if they drop the ball or miss a play that they're supposed to make. But when he's got to make a play, he's got to make those plays. We know that they're going to lean heavy on the run. No matter how much the media or fans are going to rip roaring ready for him to throw the ball and show something in the passing game, we know that Saquon Barkley's getting at least 20, 25 carries of the ball. We know that if they can continue to take advantage of the 30th ranked Russian defense, if they have an opportunity to take advantage of that and run for 150, 200 yards, and they're able to put points up and go pound for pound with Jayden Daniels, no matter how. If Jayden Daniels is throwing the ball and having success there and putting points up, and we're having success running the ball and putting points up there and taking time of possession away, that we're going to lean into that, because that's what we've leaned into all season.
Now, here's a question for you before we I want to touch base on the Lions and Chiefs real quick before we get to our players to watch, keys, and our prediction. Would you rather the Eagles be up 4 with the defense on the field, or be down 4 and the offense on the field in the fourth quarter with 2 minutes to go?
Wow, what a scenario, because it's literally, you almost don't want either of those scenarios to be the outcome that you're staring down. But Jayden Daniels and that offense have shown that they're more than capable of taking full advantage there. And it really, I can't remember who all the comebacks are up against, but I'm sure they got at least 1 or 2 solid defenses that they got that was against, maybe not, the number one, but all the time, but he
had that comeback against us. So
I think I'd want our offense on the field. I think that in that big moment, we've been talking it up all year, in that big moment where Jalen Hurts needs to shine and make that play, I think Jalen Hurts can make that play. Can the defense make the stop? I think they can make the stops all game. And when it comes down to that, and when push comes to shove in that situation, Jayden Daniels has proven the guy. And in no bigger moment than this, would he be more than willing to go all out and take advantage of that? I would want our offense on the field in that situation.
It's intriguing.
It's a terrible situation either way. I don't want to see it, so let's hope it doesn't.
I would say I'd probably want I'm going to go with the defense because we're the number one defense in the NFL. And obviously we know what happened the last time we played Washington. They went down the field, but CJ wasn't on the field. And I have faith, just like they did last week, even though I almost died, that the Eagles defense will be able to make one stop to win the game.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going, who do you trust to make a big, like a stop at some point in the game that's going to probably change it, the whole scope of the game? It's definitely going to be the Eagles defense that makes that stop, because I mean, the defense for the Washington Commanders is really in the middle of the pack. Their passing defense has not been the worst, but their rushing defense has been the worst. And it's just strength versus weakness. In that moment, we can rush it. We can make that happen. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But I mean, hopefully they can make that stop earlier to put Jayden Daniels in a spot where he's going to have to get 2 scores in the fourth quarter or the last, 6 to 8 minutes of a game versus just 1 score in the final 2 to 4 minutes of the game.
Do you trust Jake Elliott? Kicking field goals, I do. Let's talk about extra points.
I don't even know, because this could be the game where he flips and he's missing field goals and hitting all his extra points. I just don't know. Let's hope we don't have to rely on the leg, and let's just hope this game doesn't end up a loss by, 2 or 3 points where he missed a field goal or missed a couple extra points. I'm just praying.
Yeah. All right, quickly. The Bills and the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. The Bills have not had much luck against Kansas City, and Kansas City's Kansas City having the home game. The black magic, Mahomes magic, whatever the heck you want to call it, that the Chiefs are going through. What are your thoughts quickly, and who do you think wins?
I'm going to call it the black and white magic that he gets, because I think that there's a bit to say there about the referees. The zebras, yeah, if we want to go that way. But I mean, the Bills have had luck against the Chiefs when, I'm not going to say it doesn't matter, because in season that matchup still matters, but they've been able to beat them in season. But when it really matters, when push comes to shove and you're trying to get to the next week in the playoffs, the Bills just haven't been able to prove it. And I don't know why. It's going to be a really good game. Both of these matchups are going to be great. Both of these, I think, are going to end up 1-score games. I'm taking the Chiefs, so I just can't pick against the Chiefs. And I had them in the Super Bowl on my end. I had the Chiefs and the Packers. I was wrong on the Packers, but the Chiefs, I'm not wavering on the Chiefs. I love Josh Allen. I love what he's capable of doing. I'd love to see the Bills get the monkey off their back, and I'd love to see, the Chiefs kind of be out for once. I mean, 3-peat would be awesome, but to the same point, we know that they're going to be there again. This isn't the last time we're going to hear about Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs, late in the playoffs, potentially going for the Super Bowl. So, I mean, let's see somebody else for a change.
Can you imagine Bourbon Street with Eagles and Bills fans? Ooh-wee. Talk about the tailgate that would be in New Orleans. I think the Chiefs are going to win too, unfortunately. Well, I'm not sure if it's unfortunately, but it'd be nice to slay that monster, get revenge of this.
I find it so hard also to cheer against Andy Reid. Like, seeing the success that he's having is just too nice. What do I wish he had the success without as much help at times from the Zebras? Absolutely, but it's success nonetheless. It's a dynasty nonetheless.
Yeah. All right. So we both have the Chiefs winning. Let's jump to our players of the game and our keys to the game before our prediction for the Eagles and Commanders NFC Championship game. You can go first.
Keys to the game is going to be offensively make your plays. We've seen Devontae Smith cost us games. We've seen AJ Brown cost us games. We've seen guys like
Saquon in the Atlanta game.
Saquon in the Atlanta debate, but I mean, he's kind of cleaned himself up quite a bit since that game, obviously. By the way, he's like 147 yards away from breaking the record for the most rushing yards combined regular season and playoffs. So hopefully we'll see. You're on mute.
Isn't he? I don't know. I hit the wrong button. Isn't he also like over 300 yards away from 3,000 total yards on the season?
Yeah, I think it was just over 300 yards from 3,000, which has never ever been done. Too bad you can't take that all into account for MVP because that's crazy in its own right. But still, so it's going to be important. Like if you're relied on to make a play, to make a catch, make the play. This is the moment. No drops, none of this, no fumbles. Hug that ball close to your body, hold it as tight as you've ever held it in your life. This is not the time to make mistakes, and we don't want to see those mistakes happen. This team overall, this defense doesn't force turnovers. They rank 24th in turnover percentage. They don't force turnovers. Don't be the team in this moment that allows them to start forcing turnovers. I mean, they had 5 last week against Jared Goff. I'm looking at regular season numbers, but I mean, Jared Goff is Jared Goff. So don't be that team to make the mistakes and have to look back on one of those moments like the Mark Andrews drop on the 2-point conversion. Don't make it one of those moments that we need to talk about for years, that what could have been. So that's important on the offensive side of the ball. My player to watch is going to be Jalen Hurts. And it may sound cliche to pick it because he's been talked about in the media all week and what shape he's in. To me, it doesn't matter what shape he's in. He's got to will himself through whatever he's going through, and he's got to make the plays. This is his moment. If it's a rush, if it's a pass, if it's making the right decision on an RPO play action, this is going to be, everyone's going to look back on Jalen Hurts. He's going to be the topic of conversation Monday morning, good or bad. Probably, even if he wins, there's going to be questions about something about Jalen Hurts. So make it harder for people to question. Make they live up to this moment and be the moment that we know you can be. We've seen you in moments, big moments, make the plays and do the things you need to do.
It does bother me that people, even though Jalen wins a lot, people still can find something to complain about. He doesn't care about stats. The only stat he cares about is getting wins. So hopefully people start to learn, like, he doesn't care. He doesn't care if he throws for 50 yards. He doesn't care if he throws for 400 yards. All he wants to do is win and win a championship.
Absolutely. Defensively, contain Jayden Daniels. I mean, it sounds easy, but we've seen that it's not that easy. He's one of the reasons, obviously, that their 3rd down and 4th downs are manageable and that they're converting at such a high rate. You have to respect his legs. You have to respect Austin Eckler's back there. Brian Robinson's back there. Terry McLaurin's out there. Zach Ertz is out there. He's had a lot of success with a lot of these guys, and they have such a plethora of talent that can make plays when they need to make plays, and they've been making those plays. It's keeping the cardiac commanders alive and continuing to go forward and inducing heart attacks week in and week out for Washington fans. So it's going to be contain Jayden Daniels, try and contain this offense to the best of your ability. And my player to watch, since I know you're taking Jalen Carter, I'm not going to go there, but I am going to go with Nolan Smith. And I think I took Nolan Smith week in the wild card where he had his best game as an Eagle so far. And it's such a key spot. You have literally put Bryce Huff on the damn trade block, essentially. We're already ruling Bryce Huff on the trade block. You have put him there. This is your moment. This is a moment for all these guys. And Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith have been so vital to this defense. They need to make plays. And I wouldn't be surprised if at the end of the game, it's one of them that makes the play that changes, that could be one that we look back on and say, that's why the Eagles won. And hopefully it's not looking back at them being suffocated and that's the reason we lost. But I think that they can more than likely, those two guys are going to be the guys that we look back on defensively and say, they are the reason that we are going to the Super Bowl. And these are the plays that you can pinpoint, because I think they've been that vital, especially in the playoffs.
Yeah. It's going to be up to the defensive line. And not to get upfield, not to get past them, because if you pass them, he'll definitely run. Like I said, I'm going with Jalen Carter. He's gonna have to win his battle with Trent Scott, probably be double teamed by Tyler Biotish, and he'll have to find a way to win those battles like he has in the past. And like you mentioned, containing Jayden Daniels and finding a way to not allow the receivers to run wide open in the secondary. If they can cover the receivers, and they should have an opportunity to slow down and contain this Washington offense. On the offensive side of the ball, I'm going to go – you went Jalen. I'm going to go Saquon Barkley. He's the man. He's the guy for this team. I don't know. It's very rare that I go Saquon too, I think.
It's true. It's true.
So I'm gonna go Saquon. Let Saquon win. And be the guy that wins the game. He had those 2 long touchdowns last week, 4 in total against the Rams. He's had a couple against. He's like I think 3 against Washington. Like let him do it again, and let him. If the Eagles can win the time of possession battle, that means the ball's not in Jayden Daniels' hands. He's sitting on the bench. They can control the game. So I'm going to go Saquon and win the time of possession battle to keep Jayden Daniels on the bench. Prediction time, Connor. Who you got facing the Chiefs if our scenarios play out in Super Bowl 59?
I got to in this moment. I got to take the Eagles. There's no way I can go against the Philadelphia Eagles in this moment. I want that Super Bowl. We need another Super Bowl under our belt. So I'm going with the Philadelphia Eagles. I think it's going to be cardiac Commanders, cardiac Eagles, both fan bases. We will collectively hear of heart attacks throughout the next week for both fan bases. I might
be one of them.
So yeah, I'm going with the Philadelphia Eagles over the Washington Commanders and heading to the Super Bowl, and it's going to be 31-28.
All right, you have a high scoring game. I'm 13-6 on the season, by the way. You're 10-9. I also have the Eagles winning. I have it a little lower scoring. I have it 27-21. I don't know if you saw, there was a picture of the Rocky statue being dressed up in Washington gear. That never works out.
Some people say it was Photoshop, so I don't know if it's true. I don't live in Philly. I can't confirm. But if somebody can confirm for us, it doesn't work out.
I didn't really like zoom into the picture to find out. But you never know. You never know.
Let's hope they did it, because if they did it, it means best of luck. You just made luck a little harder. To come
Eagles
by.
Fans, maybe an Eagles fan did it just to be like, "Hey, look, they did it," and give inspiration however they can. But we both have the Eagles defeating the Commanders to make it to Super Bowl 59, and that would, the celebration on the field would be freaking awesome. At around 6:30 on Sunday night, if that were to happen.
Yes, sir. It would be. I mean, I got kids, and I think they induce heart attacks. But boy, that game is going to be hard to deal with. So I can't wait though. I mean, no matter what. I mean, people are already lining up the storylines of, well, if they lose, is the season a failure? What do you do with Sirianni? What do you do with their? I mean, screw that. You run it back as much as you can. This team is built for more than 1 year of run. But we are going to the Super Bowl.
By the way, it's also the most expensive NFC Championship ticket ever.
It's cost
double the amount of the AFC Championship game.
It's crazy.
It helps when you have a division matchup, and the Commanders haven't been in the championship game in 30 years. I'm going to be interested to see how many Commanders fans are there. That will be interesting. But I expect Philly fans to drown them out regardless.
Of course they will.
Yep. Thank you all for tuning in to the Kelly Green Hour. As always, follow us on Twitter at Kelly Green Hour. Follow Connor on Twitter at Connor10. Follow me on Twitter at LJHorrell54. And follow the Eagles Pinpool Network at Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, and wherever you get your podcast at Eagles Pinpool Network. We appreciate all the comments. Sunday afternoon, 3 p.m. Eastern Time on Fox, the Philadelphia Eagles hosting the Washington Commanders for a spot in Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans. Whatever happens, go out, cheer your heart out for the Eagles as always. For Connor, I'm LJ. Thank you for tuning in to the Kelly Green Hour.
And no matter what, we're going to be here Monday, and this won't be the last. Fly, Eagles, fly, baby.